Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Doom Patrol. A great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we are in the midst of the eternal flagellation, and at first, it's still not fully clear, because I mean, it is about rooting out evil in the world. I thought it was like, oh, we're going to find all the evil in the world and root it out. It's like, no, the eternal flagellation's main purpose is to make basically everyone deal with their own issues. That includes, obviously, we spend the entire episode delving with the Doom Patrol's issues, so it's always been there, but we're going deeper into like what's their underlying problems. That's what this is about, because basically Rita and the Sisterhood of Dada want to basically make everyone deal with their crap, because it's like, right, they believe that all the evil in the world can be dealt with. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it might be this, it might be pretentious, but it's not evil. What we're doing is trying to basically heal people, and it's like, once we're able to heal people, we'll get rid of all the work. It's like an artist. It's I mean, the Sisterhood of Dada, as they describe it, we are artists, and so they are putting on a performance that will invoke these feelings of, kind of forcing people to do it, which I will admit, I'm like, I get what you're doing, but it's like, is that the right thing to do in the grand scheme of things? It's like, I mean, I guess it's because the whole point is like, you want people to stop hiding who they are on the inside, be more honest with who they are, like show who they are on the inside, which I get it. Like, everyone has that. I face it. That's a thing I have to deal with every day. Like, I wear countless masks, you know, if I'm like, it's like you're the main protagonist of a Persona game. You have obviously referencing like Persona 5 specifically, because that's the one where you actually have literal masks, but it still all stems from a psychological thing of like, we all put on different masks around different people. We're not always really ourselves. There's parts of ourselves we always hide away from, not only from the world, but even from ourselves. So Rita is doing this to heal the world while also getting her revenge against Madame Rouge, which is like, that's Laura's name. There we go. I could have looked it up, sure, but I remember, like I said, I looked up, like, because I remember what she looks like from Teen Titans, which I'm assuming is closer to what she looks like in the comic books, but I was like, I can never remember her character's name, but it's like, yes, Madame Rouge, which we got a little bit of a deep dive, despite everything she did, betraying the Sisterhood of Dada, betraying the only friends, the best of friends she ever had, she still ended up getting let go by the Bureau of Normalcy, and so she ends up meeting up with Monsieur Mala and the Brain. And it's so interesting because it's like, I love that she's even like, you had me at fuck Niles Calder, because they want her to go back in time. So it's like, right, you want me to go to the year 2021. You want me to steal Niles' inventions, or like the ideas, come back to 1949 so you can build them before Niles does and take over the world. Which I love that, like, to me, it seems like taking over the world is secondary. It seems like the first thing is just to be like, gotcha, Niles, we're greater than you, we're better than you. They're actually even the ones that gave her the name, because it's like, oh, going from Nobody DeVille to Madame Rouge. So it's like, cool, so that set the tone for that. And obviously, Rita confronts her. How much did she get, like, that's why I'm wondering, because, like, I think the reason why they wanted her to open the cage was because they wanted her to, like, be, like, because I think by, who knows if she actually went through anything during the eternal flagellation. Like, Rita opening the gate probably made it so everyone else in the world did, but it makes you, I guess because it's designed so that it wouldn't affect them, but I think maybe because of Rita's trip to the past, her being, in the past, like living in that past, living with the Sisterhood of Dada for the past 30 years, that was kind of her internal flagellation, so maybe she doesn't have to go through it, but I don't know, because I was like, yeah, she still has some underlying stuff she hasn't fully dealt with, especially considering at the time she didn't have her memories, so she could, but I guess maybe her time traveling did help her deal with her stuff, because she had her memories of the past, well, her memories of living in the past, and her memories, like, so it's interesting, like, that's how that worked. I guess if Laura had used the time machine again, she would have gained kept all the memories she had while she was kicking it with the Doom Patrol, and then went back to 1949 and remembered everything she had, like all her previous memories. I guess that's how it works. So you have to go back to your original time to get your memories. But she was worried about whether or not, I guess that's so weird. I'm wondering, so I guess you can keep both sets of memories. Because it seems like or maybe at the very least, if you're determined enough, you can hold on to it. I don't know. Maybe it's just a byproduct that they never realized. I mean, maybe it's designed like that so that you don't cause too much interference with the past and let things kind of play out the way they're supposed to. Maybe that's the justification on that front. I don't know. About like, yeah, it's just like, because no one bothered fixing that aspect of the time machine. I mean, I guess no one knew that was a byproduct of that time machine, was like that you'd lose your memories. Because like, because despite knowing that's how, because as the way Laura says it, it's like, well, we're not going to use your time machine, we're going to use some facsimile of it. Like, so they made their own version of it, so I guess that's why it does that, because it's not her time machine, because it was them basing their design on their own time machine, because they made the time machine probably not knowing it had the element of removing memories. They probably just thought, oh, she has amnesia for other reasons, or maybe they, I don't know. They don't really go into the minutia of like details of like how that, I don't know. I'm getting too caught up in the details, but I'm just curious. Is it just kind of like it's fine. It's a necessary element, but it's also like, right, you kind of forget why you're there in the first place. But with at least with Laura, or rather Madame Rouge and Rita, they had their elephants, their guts telling them like, right, I have some general idea what directions I'm supposed to be looking. But regardless, so I went on a whole tangent before, but getting back to the point I was trying to make was that you had Rita confronting Madame Rouge about like, right, like for you it was all about power. You could just never get enough power. The power of basically playing God, getting to decide who gets to be a weapon, sending young people out there on the battlefield before they even get to realize how special they are. And then it's also that, the fact is that you had power over like the sisterhood as well, and like it made you feel powerful. And then at the end of the day, even despite betraying your closest friends, you still got sacked. It's because for them it's like, right, you did this for us, but the fact is you were hiding away. You should have been really doing your job properly the entire time, so they gave her the boot. It's also, yeah, Malcolm is dead now because of you. And she's like, well, at the end of the day, I'll never admit it outside of these walls, but yes, what you're saying is true. Like, it's most likely true. So, but then it's kind of like she tried to twist it around on Rita, being like, oh, but how do you know you're not evil? And then Rita tries to choke her, but she makes herself look like Malcolm, and she's like, yeah, I just had to say goodbye to you because you were like one of my best friends, So that's why she's like, I kind of owed you out of anybody the apology. So, but that set Rita on her mission to, and I was like, so that voiceover, can she hear? It seems like she heard it this time, or was that like something that was? Because it seems like because it seems like while you're time traveling, I didn't know whether that was just a voiceover or whether it seems like that's the actual time machine talking because she responded to it this time. Because last time she didn't. But yeah, once again, it's just like a combination of the life that she lived with the sisterhood, as well as her memories of just everything that she'd done as well. The proper explanation would be, proper wording of it would be, all she did is Bendy and everything as Rita Farr. So all those memories coexist now. But basically, everyone of the Doom Patrol has been replaced by their subconscious, and they're basically living out certain memories or fantasies, or any trauma, and basically they're having to live it out. It's like, right, you're going to be stuck in a cycle until you figure your stuff out. Co even had that kid. He's like, oh, like the weatherman got turned into a water buffalo with tattoos. And I guess like, oh, that kid is the like news person. That's his subconscious brought to life because of the eternal flashlight. I was like, why is there a kid on? It's like, now it makes sense. And Rita tried to make everyone like deal with their stuff. It's like, all right, does anyone want to talk about it? And just everyone there was just kind of like, nope. So I kept being like, I'm curious like who General Tony is. Turns out it's Richard Grant. Not Richard E. Grant, Richard Grant. Like, it's that weird thing where, like, certain actors you have to, like, specify because certain actors do have, like, the same name, whether it's their actual name or whether it's just, like, they need, like, to distinguish themselves amongst others. But it's like, because I know him from some stuff, Richard Grant. Like, did they always come to, I want to say, what was it, like, Special Unit 2 or something like that? There was a short-lived TV show I know him from. It was a show from, like, the early 2000s. It's kind of had, like, that Warehouse 13 vibe to it, where it's like, oh, it's a special unit that deals with, like, the weird stuff. I don't remember if it was Alien. It's been years since I've seen this show, but it was, like, the show only had, like, maybe 1 or 2 seasons. It was sadly short-lived, but it was a really interesting show. But it was along those lines of kind of like, oh, like a group of people investigating type of thing. Regardless, like I said, I'm going on a whole tangent and everything, but aside from all of that, like I said, each one of them has been replaced by their conscious. Like, let's start off with Larry. Larry goes to what is the worst memory in his life. And, because initially, even the subconscious were like, no, we're not dealing with this. In particular, Cliff was like, nah, fuck that. We're not spilling, we're spilling our shit. It's like, no. We keep our shit inside and keep it to ourselves. We're not like spilling like this is some therapy session. But let's start off with Larry. Larry's worst memory was being trapped inside that memory of his wedding day, because it was his mom forcing him, because like I guess at that time he had relationships with guys and his mom caught on and his mom tried to shame him into it, getting married. It's like, you know, like, we're God-fearing people, and you bring shame not only to yourself, but us. But you, doing this, you can do right by us by doing this. You know, just be happy. Devote yourself to a woman. And, you know, and he's telling her, he's like, I'm gay. You know, why can't you just accept me? Can you not see me for me? Like, why can't you see me? But it's also because now he realizes it's like, right, like, he's like, because at first he's like, you're not the worst memory, because, like, he's like, yeah, then why am I here? And it's like, you know, I told her all the things. He's like, and so, like, Larry from the memories, his subconscious, like, what? So you're saying it's my fault? Like, it's like, no, I did what you know, I did something. Because the problem was you didn't do anything. It's like, you think... He's like, what makes this the worst memory of your life is because it's the day you ran from love. You hid from love. Because on some level, you believe you don't deserve love. And he's got to, like, work on that. Like, because I think for Larry, he had said something interesting where he's like, basically his mom was drowning in her own trauma, and now he's like, yeah, now I've done the same thing. I've brought so many people into my trauma. Like, you know, it's like they did, you know, he dragged Cheryl, he dragged their children into his own trauma, because it was like, because I think for her, like, she was raised in a God-fearing family at that time and stuff like that, and so like that trauma led to her like dragging Larry into her trauma, and then he dragged his own other people into his trauma, including his wife and his 2 kids. And I think that was the whole point of like trying to be a little bit more open, believing that he deserves love, like giving himself that opportunity of like, yeah, you do deserve love. So there's that. Then there's Cliff's situation where, like, you know, obviously he's seeing himself, and at first Cliff's situation is like, because he was the first one amongst the subconsciouses to talk. He's like, all right, let's flagellate. Because he talks about the fact is of why he is the way he's like, I grew up dirt poor, and then I found race car, and then people started treating me different. He's like, I started to feel special. That's what it is. Like, he felt like it filled that emptiness in him. He's like, at the end of the day, I'm still empty, but that feeling of like, oh, I'm special, everyone's treating me differently. And he felt like he didn't deserve to feel special. And that is a common thread amongst a lot of this, is kind of what you deserve and what you don't. And so the memory that Cliff was stuck in was while he was busy, like, doing drugs as well as, like, banging a stripper, he had left his daughter in the car. And so now it's confronting, like, the fact is that he just wants everything he's ever done, like the blow, the cheating. He always wants to feel special. That's why he's done what he's done. And it's like, at the end of the day, it led to him decapitating his wife. Like, his wife is dead. His daughter grew up without her mom. Like, it's all of that. And even then, you know, later on, like, he's talking, like, past Cliff and present day Cliff, Robot Man, are talking to each other about the fact is that when he went back out to the car, he's like, I lived this memory over and over again. I feel no remorse. I feel no shame, because I actually feel nothing, like, because I didn't ask for fatherhood. I didn't want to be a father, like, because being a father just makes me feel like wallpaper. I'm not special. So, but, you know, the drugs, the women, like, racing, I get to feel like a king again. So it's just like, right, it gets him through, like, the week of me being like, oh, the mundane stuff of being a dad, you know, changing diapers. It gets me through that until I can feel like a king again. You know, and once again, it's like, I didn't ask to be a dad. I didn't ask for any of this. And it turns into a fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you between the both of them. You know? And it's like confronting that fact that it's like, dude, you're doing the same thing again. It's like, it might as well be 1984. You're up here getting high and just like, and it's like, dude, when you look at what he's done, you're like, yeah, the gambling, the cam girl, and now like, this, it's like he's trying to feel special again. It's like you're hallucinating on these perky meds. Like you're just doing it again. You have a second chance with Clara and Rory, and you're pissing it away. Like, don't do that. Like, you know, it's all like, you know, it's you're back in this terrible cycle again. So there's that. Then you have a young Vic that obviously the whole General Tony and the whole Vic situation, because, you know, him as a kid, he wanted a black superhero toy, so he's just tossing all these toys down to the ground and stuff, and then his dad gets on his case about, like, right, you're not in a position where you can make any mistakes. You have to be perfect. It's like, rather than get a superhero toy like he wanted, his dad was like, here's a General Tony, and that set the precedence for the rest of his life, because he always had to be perfect. He couldn't make any mistakes. That's why, like, when it came to the Doom Patrol, it's like, I'm the superhero cyborg because I always have to be at the top of my game. I can't slip up. I can't make mistakes. And it's like, it's been such a subconscious part of his mind of like, yeah, he's been making strides to you know, go and do his own thing before the internal flagellation, but the General Tony's just like, my point is, keep going. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. Get back and find a way to get back what's taken from you. And what was taken from him was his childhood. He never got to be a child. At that moment, you made a mistake, but your dad, like, whether he realized it or not, put you down a path where you felt the need to be perfect. It's like, from that moment on, because that toy was a representation of you had to be the perfect soldier. You, dad, you went along with everything because you subconsciously were like, right, I need to be the perfect soldier. I need to be perfect. I can't be flawed. Like, you had to kind of bend to what your dad wanted. Like, it's not even what you wanted to be. It's like, you're allowed to make mistakes because making mistakes allows you to grow, but it's like you've had to be perfect your entire life. So that's why, like, I think every misstep he's ever had over the course of the show, why it set him back so much, why it knocked him off kilter, because he thought, it's like, no, I need to be perfect. I'm not in a position. I'm Cyborg. I have to be this. I have to be perfect. Cyborg is a representation of, I think, of him being perfect. Of trying to be perfect, trying to be the perfect superhero, trying to be this and that, you know, trying to be the soldier that he believes he needs to be. But it's like, yeah, you're allowed to fuck up, you're allowed to make mistakes, get back what was kind of taken from you. And then finally we get to Jane, which Jane's whole situation was like a Sesame Street type of situation. We're dealing with puppets here. And I love that, like, you know, Hammerhead had to pull his eye. Like, come here. Like, we're in case of conscience. Like, well, aren't we always in case of conscience? Like, what do I look like, a psychologist about this subconscious shit? I don't know what the fuck. But it's like, yeah, she's an adult now. Not. And it's like an adult K. And obviously, like, you have Harry, the talking lamb, because it is, and for the first time, they outwardly admit it. Because I brought it up before previously about, like, what I thought it meant, and someone had agreed with me about, like, yeah, that's what they believe it to be. It is simply at the heart of it, if Kay gets better, what happens to the rest of us? Because their entire existence, their entire purpose is to help her. And it's like, right, if she's getting better on her own, like, what's going to happen to us? And so it's a situation where they're kind of asking Jane, like, what are we going to do? And they started ripping poor Harry apart, poor bastard. Because it started with, like, Jane ripping off his ear, and then, like, they start beating him to a pulp and ripping him apart. You're like, oh, poor. Because for him, he's like, I'm the only one that knows Kay. I know her real feelings. She's the only one that really tells it. It's like, no, we're the ones. That's why we exist. So we know Kay better than you. And they start ripping him apart. And obviously, like, slowly but surely, like, the rest of the team came and gathered everybody up. I'm in love. It's like, oh, like, do you have like someone's hand up your ass to move your head like that? Oh, it's kind of adorable. You're like a baby mama. She's like, fuck you, metalhead. But yeah, the consciousnesses, they weren't happy about it. Right. Once again, Jane gets to like fuck off and do what she wants to, and we're left holding the bag and having to like fix things. We had to clean up the mess, but then Dr. Harrison was like, you know what? Screw that. Not anymore. And they disappear. But what ends up happening is that it's like, Kay's like, do you know what the word of the day is? The lesson of the day is, it's like trauma. And it's like, for her, it's like, that's what they are. And it's understandable. Like, they are the literal representation of her trauma. And it's like, for her, it's like, I want to grow up. I want you guys to go. It's like, no, you need us. She's like, but I want to try and grow up. I want to, because even Cliff gave her a beer. It's like, you're an adult, but you're a kid and adult. So, why the fuck not? And I love that at one point. It's like, you're a 7-year-old. And then you have like, I think General Tony being like, but it was either him or, Larry that was like, but you gave her a beer, even though you're saying like she's like 7 years old, because she was like, they were kind of calling each other out for their respective things, and then they were kind of bottling back up. But for Kay, she wants them all to die, because once again, they are that, like, keeping you guys around, I'll never actually get better, because like, Dr. Harrison was like, yeah, what'd you think was going to happen when you gave her let her ride on that bike? And she's like, what did you think was going to happen when you stole it? It's like, I guess Jane didn't really think about like what that would mean in the grand scheme of things, because she thought like, no, we're fine, like Kay getting better, that's fine, because like if Kay gets better, we all get better. But it's like, she didn't really think about, because I think it's also like, you're the primary, you don't think about the fact is of like, you might disappear, like, because also like Shelley Fogg had got inside of her head about like, like doing what you want, and she kind of did that with Kay. And it's like, it's that problem again of like, yeah, you get to just do whatever you want. Not all the other personalities had that luxury. And obviously, like, when being told by like it's like, Kay's like, yeah, I want you to die. And it's like, Jesus. And then Jane like tears down the entire fort. Like, she has every right to feel that way. That's some like, ooh, that's some deep stuff, dude, of like, that's how Kay's feeling. Like, this is her first time, like, I guess, being able to really properly say what she's really feeling, But when, by the time Jane gets, and then obviously afterwards it's like, is it over? And everyone goes back to the respect the situation. Clara catches Cliff and she's like, Dad, I can't, like, this isn't working. He's like, I know. Vic wakes up, the prosthetics, and you're like, you forget, because he's wearing a lot of that prosthetics, you're like, the actor who plays, I didn't realize how ripped the actor who plays Cyborg is. You're like, Jesus, bro. Because he's usually got that, like, plating on his chest, so, like, you never really realize it, and part of his arms, like, because a lot of times he's wearing, like, because I'm sure that way they don't have to actually, well, I'm assuming, like, he still wears it kind of underneath, because you notice that his chest will look bulky, but part of me is like, is that just because that SOB is like super, I'm like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, a lot of times, like, you have like, because Stephen Amell had to probably stay like in crazy good shape for like Arrow and stuff like that. But you're like, man, I just never knew that dude was ripped like that. Who played Jovian Wade, who plays Cyborg. That motherfucker is ripped, dude. Holy shit. That's crazy. I guess maybe I didn't pay, like, I think this is the first time we've ever fully seen him like that. Like, sure, I was like, yeah. I mean, I think he probably had to, like, I'm just thinking also probably all the stuff he had to do for that particular scene too. He had to probably probably getting some extra stuff ahead of time. Like, all right, this is gonna be a scene where you're just gonna be buried, but it's just like, yo, I don't care, man. That motherfucker is yoked. That's wild. But nevertheless, it's like, right, he wakes up in front of his dad. The synthetic skin is there, and it's like, all right, so I guess, like, it's probably not going to be all hunky-dory. It's probably going to be pretty bad. I mean, not pretty bad, but, like, I'm sure there's going to be some downside to it. Because a lot of, like, his tech as some of his tech as Cyborg had to be removed. So he's not going to be full-blown Cyborg. He is just going to be Vic, and there are probably going to be consequences to it. But it's like, right, you're allowed to make your mistake. You make some missteps. But the whole thing is just to keep going and not backpedal to try and be perfect. Larry tracks down his little worm buddy. It's like, right, like, open yourself up to love again, and like, well, that will manifest as we'll see. But and then Jane is there with Kay being like, because Kay's like, well, Jane's like, right, I've heard you, And I understand, so we can at least talk this out. We can work this out now that I've heard how you're feeling. And, you know, I didn't like hearing it, but it's like, right, this is something we can work out. We can figure out going forward, all of us. But it turns out all the other personalities gone, and you're like, where did they go to the surface? So, like, where is Jane on the outside? Are they all trying to, like, run the body? Or did they actually leave the body and they're all all 60 plus other personalities are just out there living their best lives, their own lives of but they're together somewhere else outside of Case of Conscious now. So it seems like it's just her and Jane. So what the hell is that going to turn into? And then the final shot of the episode is Madame Rouge and Rita coming face to face. Because it turns out the reason why, her main reason for doing what she did wasn't necessarily, well, it was all for the purpose of ensuring that she went on her journey, because that way she could make sure that her and Malcolm's relationship never, their bond, because she couldn't take the chance that what if doing all this would, destroy their bond, so she had to ensure that it happened. So, it is a situation of Rita trying to she's like, no, I'm going to have everything. So that's kind of the purpose of it. But like I said, did Madame Rouge go on the eternal, was she a part of the eternal flagellation, or did she escape it? And now it's on up to, because the point is right, I want my revenge. You are evil, so you need to be rooted out. Because I'm curious, how the rest of the sisterhood feels. Do they co-sign what Rita wants? We'll have to ultimately wait and see how this all plays out. But I'm interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.